Boldwood presents Lady of Venice, written by Siobhan Daiko and read by Sergio Giacomelli and Claire Morgan. Chapter 1. Italy, June 1989. I pushed open my bedroom door. My stomach gave a lurch as I sniffed the air. Something was burning. I was sure of it. I glanced around. In the corridor, morning sunlight filtered through the shutters, but there was no sign of a fire. The passage was clear of smoke, yet I could smell an acrid odour. Could it be bleach? A frisson of cold stirred the air. "Lorenza," a ghostly voice whispered. I almost jumped out of my skin. "Who's there?" My heart thudded. Nothing. Only snorts reverberating from behind the closed door. Aunt Susan, Dad's sister, could snore for whales, just like Dad. Maybe what I'd heard was simply an echo. My slippers made a flip-flapping sound as I made my way along the corridor and down the spiral staircase. In the kitchen, a fat tabby cat wound its body around my legs. I bent to stroke his smooth fur, catching the scent of roses from the vase on the table. Everything seems normal down here. I straightened up and took in my surroundings. The open-plan room looked out at a wide veranda fronting the ground floor. There was a fireplace between the cabinets and a sitting area with a sofa, an armchair, and a television. It was a lived-in kitchen, well-used and comfortable. Not like the shoebox where I prepared my own meals in London. I gazed through the picture window at a narrow road hugging vineyards and cornfields. Dawn light illuminated a range of hills in the distance. An ancient fortress-like building sat on the highest crest, and below the fort nestled the small town of Asolo, a place for writers, musicians, and artists by all accounts. Would I find the peace I was seeking here? "Lorenza!" The whisper, so plaintive, came from right next to me. A shiver ran up my spine. "Who is it?" Silence. I repeated the question. Again, nothing. My imagination is running away with me. I went over to the bookshelf and picked up Auntie's latest novel, The Duke's Mistress, a romance by Susan Finch. I loved reading and couldn't wait to lose myself in it. I carried the book over to the table, tingling with anticipation. Yikes! I let out a gasp. My foot had knocked against something rough. A jagged piece of wood, about 6 inches long, blackened by fire. I ran my finger along it, cold as a tomb. With a sick feeling in my belly, I picked it up and threw it into the grate. Was that what I'd smelt? No, it had burned out long ago. "Lorenza!" The word hung in the air, and a sliver of ice slipped down my spine. With a yowl, the cat ran from the room, its tail fluffed out to twice its normal size. Floorboards creaked above my head, and my heart skittered. "Is that you, my lovely? You're up early," Auntie said in her Welsh lilt, descending the stairs in an old cotton dressing gown that hugged her portly figure. She pushed frizzy grey hair back from her forehead, dislodging a pair of tortoiseshell-framed glasses. I knitted my brows. Something woke me, and I couldn't get back to sleep. Auntie stared at me myopically. "A bad dream?" "I don't think so." I narrowed my eyes. I was cured of the nightmares. I hoped. those horrible visions of flames and death, smoke pouring through the blackened tunnels, the panic and the choking and the searing in my lungs. Lorenza, like a soft echo. I swallowed the sudden lump of fear in my throat and asked, "Did you hear that?" Auntie switched on the kettle. "Hear what?" "Someone's whispering." "I didn't hear anything," she said, settling her glasses onto her nose. "It must be the wind." I peered through the window, but the olive trees outside were completely still. I glanced at the fireplace, no sign of that piece of wood I'd thrown in earlier. I told myself not to be ridiculous. There had to be an explanation for the whispering. Someone outside could be calling out Lorenza, or my ears might be playing tricks on me. Not my eyes, though. I was sure I'd seen that piece of burnt wood, and I touched it. "Where's Gucci Cat got to?" Auntie asked, pouring boiled water into the teapot. "He's usually here in the mornings, begging to be fed." "He was in the kitchen when I came down, Auntie. Don't worry." "Oh, that's a relief," she beamed. "We could go to Asolo after breakfast, Fern, if you like." "Perfect. I'll take my sketch pad and try to capture some of the scenery." Again, I felt a breath of cold air and rubbed my arms. "Isn't it a little chilly in here?" "Not to me, it isn't. Quite the opposite, in fact. Early June can be as hot as midsummer," Auntie said, unblinking. "You're just tired after your journey last night. I always feel cold when I'm tired." I forced a smile. "Maybe." Half an hour later, we set off in Auntie's Fiat 500, and soon we were sitting at a table on the outside terrace of the Café Centrale, sipping frothy cappuccinos in the warmth of a glorious sunny day. I studied the building with frescoed walls on the other side of the cobbled piazza. The sunshine lit faded outlines of a battle scene, knights on horseback carrying lances, ghosts from centuries past. But wasn't something missing? Shouldn't there be an external staircase leading to the first floor? No, this was my first visit to Asolo. I had to be wrong. My mind was playing tricks on me, that was all. A fountain graced the centre of the square, a column with grooved shafts at its base, and a barrel-chested pigeon had bobbed down to drink from the flow. The winged lion of St. Mark was surveying the scene from the top of the pillar, symbol of the Venetian Republic. My skin tingled, and a fluttery feeling invaded my insides. How the hell did I know that? I tapped the coffee spoon on the side of my cup. I'm tired. Just tired. Must be something I've read about. The scrape of a chair on the tiled terrace interrupted my thoughts. A tall, dark-haired man dressed in faded denim jeans and an open-necked white dress shirt was approaching our table. "Buongiorno, Susan." The man bent and kissed Auntie's cheeks, his tanned face a stark contrast to her pallid complexion. "Luca, what a lovely surprise," she cooed. "This is my niece, Fern. She's staying with me for a few weeks." I held out my hand. He swept his eyes over me. "Haven't we met before?" "I don't think so." I would have remembered meeting this man. He was probably in his early 30s, judging by the slight recession in his hairline. Not much older than me, and devastatingly good-looking. He wouldn't look out of place on the cover of one of Auntie's novels. Not that I was interested. Far from it. Something passed through me as his warm palm enfolded mine. Something like a mild electric shock. Hard to describe, but it made me feel lightheaded. I grabbed hold of the table to steady myself. "Let's leave walking up to the Rocca for another day." Auntie pointed toward the old fort at the top of the hill. "The weather is too hot for the hike. Why don't we visit the Queen's castle, then call it a day?" A smile tugged at my lips. The Queen's castle? Did Asolo have a queen? "Queen Caterina Coronaro," Luca said, taking the seat next to me and stretching out his long legs. "Daughter of Venice, married off to the King of Cyprus, persuaded to abdicate by the Republic, and given the fiefdom of Asolo in 1489. Luca's an expert on the subject," Auntie said in an impressed tone. I shot him a curious look. "Are you a historian?" He was unlike any of the fusty old historians I'd met when I'd gone to the history club at university. Luca's smile made his deep blue eyes crinkle at the corners. "An architect, but I'm involved in restoration work. I met your aunt at a talk I gave in the local museum. I'm not such an expert on the Queen," he said, chuckling. "However, I do know about the castle. I've got a book about Caterina Cornaro at home." Auntie's lips pursed. "Quite academic, but interesting all the same." I laughed. "Well, that's my vacation reading sorted then. Come on, Auntie, the castle is waiting for us." I turned to Luca. "Your English is brilliant. I wish I spoke Italian half as well." That would be an achievement, considering I only know a few phrases. "My mother's English," Luca grinned. "I grew up bilingual, and I was educated in England. I'm going to the castle too, so I might see you up there." "Great," I said, unhooking my handbag from the back of the chair. "Hope to catch you later." I got to my feet and followed Auntie across the road, my long skirt billowing around my legs. Vacation clothes, the ones in which I felt most comfortable. I glanced to my left. The Venetian plain stretched beyond my gaze, the silhouette of a church tower etched against the clear blue sky. Something about it tugged at my memory. What? I shook my head and caught up with Auntie. "In Asolo, you should walk with your nose in the air." She took me by the arm. "Look at those arched windows and purple petunias cascading from the balconies." It's stunning, so well preserved. I loved how the colours of the buildings harmonised with each other in shades of cream and apricot. And the shop signs were discreet, not like in towns back home. "If I walked with my nose in the air without you to hold on to," I said with a smirk, "I might end up falling flat on my face." Auntie snorted out a laugh. "Indeed. Only do so if you're sure you're safe. Goes without saying." She led me up a short, steep incline, under an archway to a high terrace. Then she stopped abruptly. "Goodness!" "What's wrong?" "I've just thought of the solution to a plot problem. It's been niggling at me for ages." I stared at her. "That's good, right?" "Yes, but I need to get it down before I forget." She rummaged in her handbag. "Damn, I've left my notebook in the car. Will you be all right while I go and get it?" "I can tear you off a sheet from my sketch pad if you like." "Thanks, love, but I need to check through my notes. I'll meet you on the terrace." A quiver of unease passed through me as I waved her off. The tables sprawling across the patio, shaded by ivory-coloured umbrellas, seemed alien to this place. Of course, everything would be different, I told myself. I was used to the drizzle of London and red-bricked houses with grey slate roofs, the drone of jetliners on their way to Heathrow, the hunched crowds hurrying along pavements, and shops screaming sales or unbeatable offers at every corner. I shrugged and made the decision to climb the steep steps to the ramparts. Might as well admire the view. At the top, I retrieved my sketch pad from my bag and contemplated the green terraced gardens glistening in the bright sunshine. Without warning, the colours intensified, almost blinding me. I quickly returned my pad to my bag and shaded my eyes from the intensity. Dizziness buzzed in my head, and my knees began to give way. My hand went to the parapet, but it wobbled under my fingers. Christ! Without warning, the light had changed, and the vibrant colours had become washed out, overexposed like an old photograph. This is so bizarre. Suddenly, I was floating, looking down on the scene from above the castle wall. I tried to set my feet onto the stone, but all they encountered was thin air. Oh my God! The sunlight had fractured and splintered like glass shards. The tall building had transformed into a 2-story structure. A regal lady and her attendants, mounted on magnificent horses, were passing under the portcullis. I had to be dreaming. This wasn't real. Except I could hear the hooves clattering on the cobblestones and the voices of the people. I shut my eyes and opened them again. The building had morphed back into its 1989 state. Only the faint clop of horseshoes on cobbles resonated in my ears. I inhaled the lemony scent of caper plants growing through cracks in the ancient wall. The wall which had appeared much newer only a few seconds ago.
Chapter 2, Luca. I saw the English girl sitting on the ruined rampart of the castle, dressed in a voluminous skirt and a gypsy blouse, her long hair a riot of curls. She reminded me of a hippie. What was her name? Something botanical, wasn't it? Could it be Heather? The girl seemed miles away. Oh shit. She was swaying and looked as if she was about to fall. I ran up the steps and managed to grab hold of her before she toppled from the wall. The girl slid to the foot of the parapet, and I shook her gently. Put your head between your knees, I said as she came to. I patted her shoulder and experienced that sense of recognition again. Jesus. I eyed her white face and the sheen of perspiration on her high forehead. Are you all right? I think so, she said softly. You shouldn't be sitting here. It's dangerous, especially if you're not feeling well. I'm fine, really, I am, she shrugged. Last night I didn't sleep well, and I suppose I must have dropped off just now. You were literally dropping off this wall, and it's quite a long way down on the other side. I think you were on the point of fainting. I frowned. You were totally out of it, you know. Where's your aunt? Gone to fetch something from the car. The girl took a deep breath. Please don't worry. I'm perfectly all right. Are you sure we haven't met? I couldn't help staring at her. She had an unforgettable face. A prominent nose slightly spoiled the symmetry of her features. Not that it made her ugly, and her blonde hair could only be described as wild, but there was definitely something alluring about her. The girl's gaze rested on my chest, then traveled up to my face. Green eyes. Quite lovely. She smiled at me, her lips curving in such a delightful bow-shaped way that I wanted to reach out and brush my fingers across them. Not in a creepy fashion, more like in admiration. I'm sure we haven't met, she said firmly. I nodded, but wasn't convinced. Could I have seen her at some party in London? It didn't seem appropriate to ask. The girl pointed at the castle buildings. I was wondering about the structure at the time of the Queen. She tucked the curl behind her ear. There's a drawing in the Civic Museum showing what it was like before demolition in the early 1820s. I led her towards the terrace. Best get her sitting down before she passes out again. Such a shame, she sighed. I mean, that we can't see the original today. I glanced at her, trying to detect a note of irony in her voice. My friends often accuse me of going on and on about the castle, but she appeared to have a genuine interest in what I had to say. The pallor had returned to her face. Have you got time for a drink? I asked. Without waiting for an answer, I took her to one of the tables at the cafe on the patio and signaled the waiter. Un fernet branca per la signorina ed un caffè macchiato per me. You're very kind, the girl said. What did you order for me? Something to pick you up. A mixture of alcohol, cordial and herbs. Oh. She caught her bottom lip with her teeth. Thank you. It didn't take long for our drinks to arrive. The girl took a sip and her nose wrinkled. It tastes terrible, so bitter. Knock it back. You'll feel better afterwards, I smirked. It's an old remedy for fainting. Anyone would feel better after they stopped drinking this, she said with a throaty laugh. But I'm not sure I did faint, actually. What do you think happened then? The girl put her glass down, picked it up, and placed it back on the table. I'm not certain, to be honest. When I was sitting on the rampart, I had this incredible... Oh, I don't know exactly. She shifted in her seat. I felt as if I'd been here before, even though I know I've never set foot in this place. Maybe it looks familiar because you've seen some photos. Could be. The girl appeared to be struggling to find the right words. She lifted her shoulders and eyed the clock tower. Shaking her head, she turned back to me. Do you work in Asolo? My office is in Treviso, but I have an apartment here. I shot a glance at the sketchpad poking out of her bag. She must be an artist. Lucky you. I've got a flat in Islington and work in the city. The girl frowned again, momentarily, then relaxed her expression. I prefer small-town living. Not that Treviso is a big city. I have an affinity with Asolo. Always have done. I thrummed my fingers on the armrest of my chair. If you're in Italy until the end of the month, then you'll be here for the reenactment. To celebrate Queen Caterina Cornaro's court, I said with unabashed enthusiasm. A group of us dress up in Renaissance costumes and there are dances and street parties. The whole town joins in. Sounds like fun. Will you perform the Saltarello? I lifted an eyebrow. I'm surprised you know about a dance from the 15th century. It's a tricky one, so we tend to leave it out of the performance. The girl tossed her hair back from her face. Must have seen a TV program or read about it somewhere. I'm not a dumb blonde, you know. I didn't think you were, I said with a laugh. Should I ask about her sketches? But before I could do so, footsteps crunched on the gravel and Susan Finch came marching up to the table. Her short, chubby legs enveloped in baggy tracksuit bottoms, and her mouth covered with telltale crumbs, showing she'd indulged in a pastry or two on the way past the Caffè Centrale. My dear, she squealed. You look as if you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, just a funny turn, Auntie, the girl said. Thank God Luca was here. She smiled. He managed to grab hold of me as I was about to fall off the ramparts. Goodness, what a stroke of luck that you saw her. Susan shot me a grateful look. Would you like to come for dinner the day after tomorrow? Fern and I would love it. It's the least we can do. I'd be delighted. Fern, the girl's name at last. But I really didn't do much. Fern should see a doctor, though. We'll stop off at the hospital on our way home, Susan said briskly. To get Fern checked over. Best to be safe than sorry. She paused. We'll expect you around 8 o'clock on Friday evening, then. Mille grazie. Thank you so much. Watching the two women ambling arm in arm down the path, I clapped a hand to my forehead. Cazzo. I'd forgotten I was supposed to spend Friday evening with Mother.
Chapter 3. I was sitting in the kitchen, sipping from a glass of mineral water, while Auntie prepared our supper. At the hospital, after an interminable wait and several tests, the doctors had said I'd fainted as a result of high blood pressure and needed to make sure I avoided caffeine. Probably all that coffee I drank while waiting for the flight at Heathrow. Thank you for our delay. Not to mention my breakfast tea and the cappuccino at Caffè Centrale. I'd been a caffeine junkie for years, and now I'd have to limit my intake to 1 coffee and 1 tea a day. I'd braced myself to hear the ghostly whisper when I'd returned to Auntie's, yet the only sound was the echo of church bells emanating from the village and the noise of a motorbike revving past on the road. I must have imagined the whisper. That drop I'd felt in the temperature probably had something to do with my blood pressure and feeling faint. There could be no other explanation. My weird experience in Asolo had been my caffeine-loaded brain playing tricks on me. Nothing more. I took in a breath, and there it was again. The faint smell of burnt wood. I wrinkled my nose and put it down to farmers burning stubble in the fields. Auntie was opening a jar of sauce. "Spag bol okay?" she asked. Perfect. My mouth watered. I hadn't eaten a proper meal since the day before yesterday. Could be another reason why I'd felt lightheaded. Steam rose from a pot of boiling water, and Auntie tipped a handful of pasta into it while the cat purred loudly at her feet. "I'd offer you a glass of wine," she said, picking up a bottle of Bardolino. "Except you need to line your stomach first." She pulled the cork, then wagged a finger at the cat. "Shoo, Gucci, you've been fed already. Now, where are my specs?" "They're on top of your head, Auntie," I smiled. She was certainly a one-off, but I loved her so much. Inadvertently, I thought about the man I'd met this morning. Luca seems a nice guy. How did he end up going to school in the UK? His family's very wealthy and can afford private education. He was at Eton, you know. Comes from one of the oldest families in the Veneto. In fact, I think they number a couple of doges, rulers of ancient Venice, in their ancestry. Italy's a republic now, of course, so no one can call themselves a count or countess with any legitimacy. Otherwise, Luca would be Conte Gorodan. His mother's English? Auntie nodded. She's a widow. La Contessa, as the locals still like to call her. A lovely lady. I met her when Luca gave his talk at the Asolo Museum. Interesting. But why did you invite him to dinner? I mean, it was kind of you. Only you didn't have to. I just wanted you to have a friend nearer your own age. I hope Auntie isn't setting me and Luca up. If she is, she has no chance. We ate in companionable silence, and with the last forkful of pasta, my eyelids drooped. An early night for you, Fern. She picked up the plates and took them to the dishwasher. I'll go to bed soon, too. I was so tired, I could barely haul myself up the stairs. The following morning, I was in the kitchen having breakfast with Auntie. Why don't you take the car and go exploring? She suggested, her mouth full of toast. Just remember to keep on the right side of the road. I'd like to visit Asolo again. I'm dying to paint it. My fingers twitched. I couldn't wait to take out my colours and lose myself in creativity. Art therapy. It had started as a way of facing my demons, but now it had become almost as essential as breathing. A surprise to both myself and the therapist I was seeing for grief counselling. I helped clear the table, then went to get my things from my room. The drive from Auntie's village, Altivole, took about 20 minutes. I found a park, then reached for my rucksack. After gazing up at the Rocca, its fortifications etched across the azure sky, I decided not to go there today. I couldn't face the climb. I'd have a leisurely stroll and find a quiet place where I would paint. Within minutes, I was ambling down the Via Canova, the sun warming my bare arms, guidebook in my hand. Reading that I should glance up Vicolo Belvedere at the corner of the bakery, I did so. The book said there'd once been a Jewish ghetto there. A mansion painted the colour of terracotta rose on my left. Apparently, it used to belong to a famous Italian actress. I strolled under an archway and caught sight of an elegant palazzo with gold lettering on a wooden sign saying Hotel Villa Cipriani. I peered through the wrought iron gate into a lush garden, planted with an array of salmon-pink geraniums. Next door stood an old house with a balcony, mullioned windows, a portal, and a massive doorway with a shutter and bolts. Recognition rang like a bell, but I furrowed my brows and told myself to keep focused. There was nothing familiar about the small church on my left. Putting the guidebook into my rucksack, I stepped into the building and sat on a pew at the back. My breath caught. I know this place, but something about it is different. An image swam into my mind of another church, of mourners in black and a coffin at the altar, the wooden box containing the charred remains of my fiancé, Harry. My chest tightened so much I could barely breathe. Warm tears ran down my cheeks. I brushed them away with trembling hands and stared at the altar. The faded frescoes were brightening as the roof began to squeeze down on me. The colours had become even more vivid. I closed my eyes and grabbed hold of the pew in front. Only it was no longer the wood of a pew, but the stone of a castle parapet, rough against my fingers. Music lifted from the park below, and the sound of singing. My head swam with dizziness. I squirm, feeling lost. But it is my own singing that I hear, and I'm delirious with it. Who am I? Where am I? For a moment, I'm confused, as if floating in a daydream. Then I'm back where I belong. I'm Cecilia, and it is the year of our Lord, 1504. My world is as it should be, and I sing along with my sister Fiammetta while she plucks her lute in the shade of the cherry tree. The rhythm never falters as the tune rises and falls. When Fiammetta sings, Orpheus could not fail to be astounded at her skill. She can keep perfect harmony on her instrument, bringing melody to the inflections of the song. No wonder she's the Queen's darling. We sing of the bitter sweetness of love, and I take hold of my sister's hand. I'll miss you when you are wed. My dear, at court you'll be too much in demand to think of me. Think of me. These 3 words soar in the breeze with an echo. Think of me. Think of me. Something makes the skin on my arms prickle, and I spin around. A shadowy figure floats at the top of the castle wall. I look again, but all I see are the usual caper plants. The parapet is empty. The moment passes, and I'm caught up in singing once more. Fiammetta plays a different tune. I screw up my eyes to remember the words and the melody. Shall we dance? I ask, tired of singing. I need more practice. I love to dance, to twirl until I fall over with the dizziness of it. I can't wait for the time when I shall step out with a handsome suitor whom I don't know yet, but who will adore me as I adore him. Even more than dancing, however, I like to draw, covering paper with black chalk representations of the people and landscape of Asolo. So much more enjoyable than endless embroidery. Have you learnt the saltarello? My sister inclines her head towards me. It is the most difficult of dances, and I've yet to master it. Fiammetta puts down her lute, holds my hand high, and counts the 5 beats. We move our feet gracefully, right, left, then execute a short jump before repeating the movement by starting the sequence on the opposite foot. We go over the steps again and again until Fiammetta, playing the man, bows, and I drop into a deep curtsy, perspiration dampening my armpits. The rough lawn is springy beneath the soft soles of my shoes, and I sit down, my skirts billowing around me. I run my hands through the grass, plucking at the pink valerian flowers and lifting them to inhale the vanilla fragrance. The delicate scent reminds me of something, but the memory eludes me. Fiammetta's dark hair cascades in a long braid down her back, and curls escape to frame her face. My breath catches, and I try to hold the picture in my mind. When she is married, she'll live with her husband, of course. She will have no time for me. The compensation will be that I'll take her place at court and will make frequent visits to Venezia. I only vaguely remember the city where we were born. I was barely a child of 5 when we were dispatched here after our parents died in the plague. Will you not miss the Queen's parties in her palace on the Grand Canal? I ask my sister. Why would I wish to be there? I'm promised to Rambaldo, who loves me. Rambaldo Azzoni Avogadro, that nobleman from Treviso, is too ugly for her. But he's wealthy and doesn't need a bride with a dowry. Even so, the Queen has been generous with her wedding gift to Fiammetta, a small villa on the road to Venezia. My dreams of a handsome suitor are mere fantasies, however. I push the thought from my mind. I will not dwell on it. Who knows what the future will bring? As I lie back on the grass, the warmth of the sun caresses me and dispels my disquiet. Horse hooves clatter on the cobbles, and the bell in the clock tower strikes the hour. Fiammetta tugs at my sleeve. You have grass stains on your kirtle, Cecilia. Remember, we are soon to go with the Queen to sing Te Deum. You need to dress appropriately. Standing, I brush down my dress before sprinting up the steps to the building where I've lived for the past 10 years. The Queen is there, and I drop into a deep curtsy. "Are you ready for your debut, child?" she says. A smile spreads over my lips. "Yes, Domina." I run to change my attire. Today, after luncheon, I shall join the court at her country villa at last. The castle in Asolo is too cramped and crude for the Queen's tastes, and she only visits when necessary. Excitement sparks in my chest, and I feel I'm about to explode with happiness. "Sit still." Fiammetta gives my arm a shake. "You're supposed to be praying, not fidgeting." My eyes fly open, and I peer at the frescoes, confused by their brightness. I clutch my psalter to my chest. What am I doing here? Then I remember the Church of Santa Caterina. We arrived here a few moments ago. From my left comes the most melodic voice, deep and true. A young man with dark brown hair flowing to his shoulders. Bowing my head, I pretend to ignore him, while taking surreptitious peeks. He stands next to the Queen in the opposite pew. My gaze travels to his mouth, and my heart flutters. What am I thinking, staring at a man so boldly? I can't help it. For once, I feel as beautiful as the other ladies. Over my shift, I'm wearing my kirtle, with the sleeves of my shift pulled through the slashes in puffs along the arm. The latest fashion. My overgown of pale blue satin is sleeveless and laced at the front. I stroke the material and blush with pleasure. It is a gift from the Queen for my debut. How kind she is. After the service, we progress up the hill to the castle, where a meal has been prepared. The heady perfume of roses in vases on the long wooden tables mingles with the aroma of roasting beef. My mouth watering, I take my seat beside Fiammetta. I ate little at breakfast, and hunger twists my belly. Fiammetta nudges me. "That man is staring at you," she says, breaking off a piece of bread and stuffing it into her mouth. "Looks like you've made a conquest, except I wouldn't be too pleased. He's an artist, a womanizer, and he likes to drink." Fiammetta's eyes take on a dreamy expression, even though she's to be married soon. "So handsome. I do believe he's known as Dorso, from Castelfranco." "I don't like him," I say. Best not reveal what I really think. His smile fascinates me, as to his full lips that turn up at the corners. Wish I could feel that mouth on mine. I give a start, shocked at my thoughts, and cut a slice of meat with my knife. I can't help feeling a stab of jealousy that he, a man, can be an artist, whereas I, a woman, can have no such hope. The strumming of a lute interrupts my thoughts. It is that deep, melodic voice again, singing. "Subtle beauty of the golden tresses, can you see that I am dying for you?" I flick a look at the musician, and his eyes meet mine. I huff and glance away. "If you think I will succumb and become one of your women, Senor Zozo, you'd better think again." I do not let myself observe the artist further, although every word coming from him seems to be directed at me. "Breeze blowing that blonde curling hair, stirring it and being softly stirred in return, scattering that sweet gold about, then gathering it in a lovely knot of curls," he sings. I've worn my so-called tresses loose today, not encased in a hairnet. I hate to dress my hair. There's far too much of it, and I think it my worst feature. Oh, foolish Cecilia. I realise that the artist is singing a sonnet of Petrarch's set to music, not his own words. He could be addressing them to any of the ladies assembled here, although I'm the only blonde besides the Queen. Demeanor, of course, he's serenading her. I'm such an ingenue. Finally, the time has come to depart, and we make our way to the courtyard. The stable boy, his smile revealing blackened teeth, hands me my horse's reins. I stroke my grey steed's soft velvety nose, and his sweet hay breath makes me sneeze. I've named him Pegaso. Only recently schooled, he's young and full of life. Pegaso's bristles tickle my wrists, and I laugh as the boy helps me up. Sitting astride with my dress spread out behind me, I'm ready to ride at the back of the procession. The townspeople have come out to watch, and I sense their delight at the sight of us, for we are wondrous to behold. The Queen leads the parade on a splendid black destrier. No milksop palfrey would suit her. She expects her ladies to be like she is, and to equal the knights in their equestrian skills when they join the hunt. Even though demeanor is no longer young, she's energetic and radiates an inner beauty and intelligence that have made her court the place where writers, poets, artists, and musicians congregate from miles around. I can't wait to be a part of it, and at the same time tremble that I might not be worthy. 3 young courtiers are ready to accompany us. They're wearing new-style doublets, so short you can see their bulging codpieces. I regard the men from beneath my eyelashes and recognise one of them. It is the artist. He catches my gaze, and I make a face at him. Zorzo from Castelfranco nudges his companions, who fall about with laughter, and the heat spreads to my cheeks, which redden to bright scarlet, I'm sure. We cross the square and head down the hill. The sound of singing spills out of the tavern. From an upstairs window come the shouts of a housewife, yelling at her children to stop staring at us and do their chores. On the corner, at the farrier's, echo the clash and clamour of pincers and hammers. Women gossip by the fountain where they are washing their clothes. The church bell tolls, calling the faithful to Mass. I'm not sad, for I shall return to Asolo from time to time as the court moves between castle and villa. If the Queen pleases, she'll take me to Venezia when she goes to visit her family. I smile at the prospect of seeing my birthplace and staying in a magnificent palace on the Grand Canal. Without warning, the skin at the back of my neck prickles. I catch a strange man staring at me. His skin is pale, and his hair is black like a witch's cat. The sun beats down hard on me, but frost coats my body. Telling myself not to be fanciful, I focus on keeping my seat. Pegaso has been spooked by the crowds. He rears and prances from side to side. I'm at home in the saddle and can gallop across the fields towards the foothills of Monte Grappa without any difficulty. However, controlling this excitable creature in the midst of all the confusion is beyond my skill. Maria Santissima! I lose my seat and tumble from my saddle. Pinpricks of light, and the world around me sways as if it were a tapestry coming away from the wall. My head was spinning. I felt a tap on my shoulder and turned around. A woman in strange dress was looking at me, concern radiating in her eyes. "Are you ill?" "Ill? Why should I be ill?" "You were swaying. I thought you were about to faint." The frescoes had faded, the ceiling had levitated, and the church was empty except for me and this stranger, who was wearing what could only be described as men's clothing, albeit the strangest masculine apparel. Straight beige pantaloons and a tight black doublet. Definitely a woman from her shape. She had long, dark brown hair pulled back from her face and knotted at her nape, and some sort of tincture above her deep blue eyes. Something only courtesans wore. Makeup. The awareness was like a punch on the arm, shocking me into the 20th century, and I took in a shaky breath. "Oh," I said to the woman. "Please, don't worry. I was just daydreaming." "I'm Vanessa Goridan." The woman held out her hand. "Pleased to meet you." "The Contessa." I introduced myself. "I met your son yesterday. He's having dinner with my aunt and me tomorrow evening." "Ah, so you're the reason he changed his plans," the Contessa said with a laugh. "Changed his plans?" "Not to worry. He can see me any time. You're still a bit peaky. Let me offer you an aperitivo at the Cipriani." "Thank you." I shuddered at the thought of another drink like the one Luca had given me yesterday. "I'd love a glass of sparkling water." "And you shall have one," the Contessa said, rising to her feet. We strolled up the road and into the elegant entrance of the hotel, richly carpeted and lined with display cabinets showcasing expensive jewellery. Feeling underdressed, I glanced down at my scruffy sandals and smoothed my skirt. I almost wished I was wearing my summer work outfit of linen trousers. The enclosed veranda opened onto the gardens I'd spotted earlier. A bald man was coming towards us, dressed in a dark dress suit, white shirt, and grey tie. He bowed before the Contessa, kissing her hand. "We are honoured by your presence, madame." "Giuseppe," she gave a delighted laugh. "Ever the charmer. We'll sit in the garden, as it's such a lovely day. This is Fern, a friend of my son's. Please ask the waiter to bring a bottle of acqua minerale frizzante and some of your delicious pastries." I sat next to the Contessa at a table under an enormous umbrella on the patio. "The manager here oozes charm from every pore," she said. "But he's a nice man and keeps this place running like clockwork." "It's beautiful." I breathed in the scent of honeysuckle growing up the side of the building. "Seems old, but not as old as the church." "You're interested in history?" She glanced at me. "I believe it used to belong to Robert Browning, the English poet, back in the 19th century, but it was built in the mid-16th. I sat back and closed my eyes, the logical part of my brain fighting with the illogical events of the morning. What I'd experienced in the church had been beyond illogical, though. It had been completely, mind-blowingly incredible. I turned to the Contessa and said, "I can feel the past here in Asolo. It could be my imagination, except it's so vivid. It's as if I'm there." "Are you psychic?" She raised a brow. I laughed softly. "Not at all. I've always thought anything like that a load of old rubbish." "I wouldn't dismiss the spirit world, Fern. As Shakespeare said, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy." A rush of embarrassment washed through me. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend your beliefs." "No offence taken. But I'm certain that the dead can manifest themselves to us. Our villa, for instance, has a presence in it. Not a malevolent one, mind you. Sometimes I hear the sound of a lute. Comforting, in a way." What would she think if I told her I'd not only heard a lute, but had seen the musician himself? She'd think I was batshit crazy, that's what. I'm researching our family tree, the Contessa added. Only I haven't come across the lute player yet. I picked up a small donut, sugar scattered on top, and bit into it. Custard-filled, delicious. I eyed Luca's mother. She was leaning forward, staring into her glass, her long, elegant fingers spread around the top. Is your home in Asolo? I asked. No, it's halfway between here and Bassano. I'm only in Asolo today, as I've been to visit an old lady, Freya Stark, the English writer and explorer. She lives near the Santa Caterina Church and was a friend of my mother-in-law's. How interesting. I tried to make my voice sound knowledgeable. I had no idea who the writer was. The Contessa's eyes met mine as she put her glass down. You must come and see our villa one day. It's quite famous. I'd like that. I pressed the pastry crumbs on my plate with my finger. There's so much to see around here, and I'm only in Italy till the end of the month. Have you been to Venice yet? It's on my to-do list. A whispered sigh of approval stroked my cheek. I lifted my hand and brushed it away. The air seemed to crackle around me. Stay focused on the present, Fern. I fixed my gaze on the Contessa. I'm looking for a suitable spot to do some painting. Can you suggest somewhere? Why not stroll up to the Sant'Anna Cemetery? There's some wonderful views. Is it very old? Dates back centuries. Oh, maybe not, I said, remembering that the girl in my vision, if that's what it was, Cecilia, had mentioned the year 1504. Is there anywhere only dating from maybe a couple of 100 years ago? Luca's mother gave me a questioning look. Why not stay here? The gardens would make a lovely subject. I'll clear it with Giuseppe for you if you like.